few moments, it will begin. There we go. It's up and running. In a few moments, this will populate. There's the wonderful people. Eileen, Janine, Mike, Rami, Patricia, Kristen. Good to see you guys. Oh, it's been a busy couple of days. It's up to 26 degrees. We had a snowstorm. I mean, it's unbelievable. My wife actually had a day off from school. She's a teacher, so she had a day off on Monday because of the snow. And looking outside, we had a 70, I think it was 75 degrees on Thursday. Oh, lots going on. I was kind of out of the loop last week because my kids had a spring break. And, the one thing's been clear in the last 2 years is that our lives continue. And you have to spend what time you can with your kids. Things seem more and more precious. The news is, I don't know what has happened yet. Hello, Nikki. It has been 97 over the weekend here. Oh, goodness. What part of the world are you at, Nikki? I mean, that's that other thing. We've been watching all the corruption. We've been watching the corruption of this government with horror. But the reality is it's all set against the backdrop of the corruption that has been confronting humanity for, my whole life. Texas. Yeah. That's too hot for me. 97 is too hot. And, decades of corruption where people are not taking seriously the threat to humanity, in the form of climate change. And it's sobering. It's depressing, the world that our kids are going to get. There's so much going on right now. I've been reflecting a lot lately about how growing up, everything was just so much misery, so much oppression, this authoritarian system that you're grown into. And it was really through books that I was able to kind of piece together a skeleton of maybe a better life that I could aspire to have. Just a better way of treating each other. And now today I was watching a video about this book that Hachette released that's been pulled from the shelves because of AI content, which is a really strange story. And the thing that went through my mind was that oh good, you get a little bit cooler. 74 is a pleasant temperature. It's still early though. But it occurred to me, it's like so much of my life was basically saved because I was able to track down books. I was able to piece together a reality. And you're reading a story from a writer from another era, somebody who didn't understand so much of what you face. You're somebody who lived in a time when there weren't engines yet and there wasn't the internet and, they were brushing down a horse and they tell their story and, they tell about their great love and the love is consistent. The things that they feel are consistent. But that's why it's so challenging because you can read these stories that contain little kernels of truth from, 10 or 50 or 100 or hundreds of years ago. And you can extract from them the information you need to go forward and create a better world for yourself, a better mindset, where you can erode all those lies that you're told that make you an enabler of abuse. And that's really the entirety of the United States, the indoctrination. It's interesting. I've been doing more and more work dismantling that structure of abuse that makes people do things against their own interests. But then you read about an AI generated book and you realize, oh, they see, these oppressors. This oppressor class has seen that people can look to the works of literature and find a pathway out. And so it feels as if creating AI will destroy that. And one of my concerns is, I am from the era, before artificially written books. And so I grew up with that. My kids have grown up in the era where AI created books have existed throughout their whole lives. My kids know real books though, because I've spent so much time reading to them. I've sat with them. I've written stories with them. But I'm fearful about how that will change things. But at the other hand, one of the things that occurred to me was throughout all these years, bad people have written their books too. They've sat down and written these horrific manuscripts. They've told lies. They've tried to justify their cruel worldview. And there is something essentially human that makes us reject that. There were plenty of books I read even when I was young, and I hadn't really explored much, which I rejected them pretty early. I'd started reading them, and I said, "No, this isn't for me. This isn't truth." And I think that's what we're going to have faith in. I'm a scientific person, but every now and then I have faith in the scientific method, is how I put it. So that's what I mean by faith. Faith in our ability to recognize things that are harmful to us. I had a couple weird interactions this morning. I was talking about, I did my article yesterday about ICE. Read that article if you get a chance. The article about ICE being deployed to airports. And it's just awful. And we'll see what's going to happen with this, but I just don't see any way. Thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate that. I don't see how the ICE deployment to airports is going to turn out well. And it led to just a strange little disagreement this morning. Because prior to now, ICE has been attacking, they've been picking up, thank you, Nikki. They've been picking up, farm workers and people that work in the service industry. And I mean, just really hardworking people. ICE has been, beating up on them. People without resources, people that live in poverty, who are exploited, who are taking jobs for less than minimum wage, because there's so many different structures of abuse in the United States. And ICE has been allowed to just roll right over them. We're spending all of this money, giving it to the very worst people. I call them, the hillbilly murder squad, because the people in ICE, the ones that they're recruiting, are just like the dregs of humanity, the white supremacists, the people that couldn't pass the physical or the psychological exams to get into law enforcement. But you get to be paid 3 times as much as a high school teacher with a master's degree because we've got a white supremacist president. So I wrote my article about that, and it's like, okay, so many people in the United States have, it's upsetting. You got these suburban people who just, they have their heads in the sand. They got the wishful thinking. They know the things. They know they're aware that there are bad things in the world. They're aware that there are places where children are getting raped. These stories are spreading about these concentration camps where little girls are turning up pregnant. They weren't pregnant when they were put in there. So these children are being raped in those concentration camps. And we just don't have near the outrage about this that we need to have for us to call ourselves decent people. I did see a story the other day about church groups demanded entry into concentration camps just for services, and I appreciated that because that's weaponizing one of the things the right always weaponizes, which is their religious freedom. And yes, I mean, if they can use religion to have super spreader events during the pandemic, we should be able to use religion to insist people get to go into these concentration camps and have services for the people that are held there. I have a contentious relationship with religion, but I do think we have to use it when possible. We can't fall into this "we can't be like them" mentality and just never use religion to advance humanity or humanitarian ideas. I still get nervous about Tallarico, and particularly because, hi Lefty Prof, because he hasn't denounced James Carville to my knowledge yet. And that's just a line in the sand for me. You can't have James Carville. The guy has said so many openly racist things. And we keep seeing this is how this structure of abuse works in the United States. In any situation, there's some sort of an act that is unforgivable. Something has happened, and we're just shamed into being told that we're never allowed to talk about it. I mean, when we're talking about religion, you should constantly be talking about how the fact that the Catholic Church has enabled pedophiles for decades and the abuses. I mean, there's these stories, the laundry stories where they would, they girls would be on the street, they'd bring them, they'd make them into slave labor, and these girls would get raped in these religious institutions. I mean, they're just atrocities, and we should be talking about those things. And our whole society is designed where there's these atrocities that happen in plain view, and then they install blinders on us, and we're shamed for even bringing it up. And that's where our issue is. We have to start bringing those things up. We have to stop submitting to that indoctrination that makes us unable to speak, you know, the open truths of corruption and abuse that make up our whole society. And we have to shake that off of ourselves. I mean, you looked at the last election. They didn't mention, they should have been, I mean, it should have been 34-time felon, 34-time felon everywhere, all the time. He's a felon, he's a felon, he's a felon, he's a felon. And for some reason, the Democrats just never, they mentioned it once. I mean, in the debate with Biden, he didn't bring it up until, that should have been the first thing he said, rather than try to answer questions with statistics. He's just like, this guy's a felon. Why are we on this stage? He shouldn't have agreed to debate the guy. But there's just all this pressure where we're supposed to set aside all that blatant corruption, like we're going to act like we don't see it. So anyway, I was talking this morning, I did my article. Please read that article about ICE, because I think it's what's going to happen. My thought is, prior to now, ICE has been beating up on the marginalized and the oppressed, people that don't have resources, little kids, women, people that are just exploited and oppressed and marginalized anyway. And, this is just the society that allows for that. But now ICE is being moved to airports. And, now they're going to be standing around getting haughty with white men flying business class. And that's a different thing. And prior to this, it's like these white men flying business class have had their head in the sand, and they've not cared about the fact that little girls are getting raped in detention facilities. They've heard about it, or they've said, oh, that's awful. And then they go throughout their day, but they don't lose sleep over it. But now they're the ones at the airports, and I was saying, it doesn't make any sense. First of all, what's ICE going to do? They're going to be at airports in their face masks with no identification, demanding that travelers show their identification. What if it's not a federal agent? How are we verifying that these are federal agents? These armed men in face masks and body armor that we're letting into airports now. This makes no sense. The reality is, and the fact that every single time a right-wing person starts talking about it, people don't throw these arguments back in their face, is what's really upsetting to me. And a lot of it is because the Democrats just fall into this absurd decorum where they don't bring up the arguments that are just devastating. We're indoctrinated not to do that. It's like the guy is a cheater. Republicans cheated every election. We have to talk about this. Orange skid mark was indicted. His 34 counts was fraud, business fraud related to election interference. So he's guilty of election interference. He was under indictment for election interference in 2020. Everything the Republicans do is election fraud. They're gerrymandering. They're the SAVE Act. And for some reason, Democrats refuse to talk about it. Later on today, I have a phone call scheduled with This Will Hold. I have to talk with her soon, because I just want to get my thoughts straight on this. And you've probably read her articles about all the vote banks and all the various different, they've been investigating all the various forms of fraud. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I'm looking forward to becoming a little bit more educated in how I talk about voter fraud. Because I'm going to continue to interview these candidates. I posted this morning. Please share that article too, if you can. I posted an article where I included all the interviews I've done with candidates. There's been a lot of them I've talked to at this point, and Like I say, as I talk to these candidates, a lot of these things, we have to break down this mechanism that a lot of these entitled people just don't even see. I'm not saying that all the candidates I'm interviewing, they're certainly not entitled, but I mean the establishment Democrats, the Washington D.C. Democrats, who just don't see these things. They just aren't aware of it, and then they keep losing, and they keep shrugging their shoulders, and they keep telling us to wait till the midterms when they can do something now. So anyway, I wrote my article about ICE. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, now ICE is going to be harassing rich people at airports. And somebody decided to get in a fight with me this morning. Like, well, rich people have their private jets and they're never on the. I'm just like, why are you fighting with me about this? Sometimes and this seemed like it was a real person. So that's what made it kind of strange. Clearly, to a person who put all his or her belongings into a sack and had to cross the desert and come to this country and be exploited and work for less than minimum wage, washing dishes or whatever. I mean, so many immigrants are just mistreated here in the United States. And then that's what ICE has been. Those are the type of people that ICE has been targeting up until now. And now they're going to be in airports where they're targeting, white men flying business class. And that is rich compared to, somebody who is being exploited. And I just don't know why somebody has to come at me on Substack and get all haughty about that. Well, a real rich. And once I see that, like these ambiguous terms, it's like we have to recognize, we're part of that class. I mean, I'm part of that class. I get the opportunity to be online. Like somebody talking online is, by the definition of the world, pretty wealthy. And just to get into a fight with me about designating, like completely disregarding the argument of, yeah, we got a whole nother group of people now that are going to have to directly deal with ICE, people that until now have been content to just pretend like that's not an issue. They're going to have to be harassed by them. Hi, Howard. Yeah. And MJ says that's the bright side to ICE being in airports. White people will be inconvenienced. And that was the point I was making. This entitled class that has had the most power to stop this and which has been able to ignore it. And I mean, a lot of that is to, and I get so frustrated, but a lot of it is because of our media, our corrupt media. There are people that have, unless you are discerning and you are taking it upon yourself to go and find out what's happening, it's very easy to just passively go through, oh, this is just normal. This is just normal. And I guess that's one of the things I wrote my article the other day about. It's time to understand that Americans are just not good people. And somebody wrote a pretty good comment that I've been thinking about where they were just like, people are just trying to survive. And a lot of people are just like getting through the day. And I reflect on that often because, somebody else wrote, and they're just like, I didn't see how corrupt the world was. And I didn't either until like the 2024 election. I really didn't understand how corrupt the world was. And now I know, but I mean, you're born into the world with no knowledge. You have to figure out everything as you go. And, it takes you. I didn't even realize, you don't even know what abuse is until you're like 10. You just think this is the way life is. And then it wasn't until I was 20 that I was able to like, that was me that I got targeted for abuse. And bit by bit, you grow and you grow. And it's only until you kind of get into your power a little bit. And, I just look back at those decades and it's like the decade of exploration, they call it, from 20 to 30, but really from 30 to 40, I was having kids and I was busy with the kids. 40 to 50, it wasn't until closing in on 50 that I really started, now your kids are growing up and you start recognizing a few of the things, because I've always done opposite of what everybody always said to do without question. It's always the opposite because I think everybody's a fool to be and evil. At best, they're a fool. At worst, they're just flat out evil and they're telling you lies and they're deliberately trying to hold you back. So you have to have grace with yourself when you're 10 or 20 and you don't really see. And I think that's an important thing for us to recognize as we continue this fight against oppression and white supremacy. And because I feel so much frustration with every group, but I have to recognize every group is not me, and they're not at this point in their journey in their life, and they haven't had the opportunities that I have. They haven't seen the things that I've seen. They don't have access to the information I have. So that's part of the reason why all you poor wonderful people have to be stuck with such a tidal wave of content from me, and I'm just spewing into the void. trying to counter a lot of these lies because it's so difficult. And what's the worst of it all is I'm operating entirely within that space that America's been indoctrinated not to look at. Oh, Walter's saying a bunch of things that are inappropriate. We don't even talk about those things. We can't call that abuse. We can't do this. And you have to say it is abuse. It is abuse. It is abuse. And you have to say it over and over again. And more of you are saying it. And I appreciate that. I'm gonna read some of these comments here. MJ just said, yeah. It's going to be a new thing. People are going to see the cruelty of ICE. You aren't going to be able to hide it. And when I talked to Jen Budd the other day about how Border Patrol is filled with just men who just are entitled, and they're rapists. They rape these people that they abduct. Who is out there standing for the rights of a desperate person crossing the border, a person without a country, person fleeing sex trafficking or whatever? Nobody's standing for their rights. And Border Patrol knows it, and they are emboldened and entitled, and they can do whatever they want to these little kids that they find out in the desert. And killing them isn't the worst thing that they do. But now Border Patrol and ICE, because ICE has made up a lot of former Border Patrol, they'll be at our airports. And people are going to see how evil they are. But I thought, maybe what's going to happen is Schumer and the like could be like, well, we can't have this. Let's just fold. I don't know. It's so frustrating. Yeah. You know what though, Nikki? That because Nikki says I've noticed there's a lot of MAGA on Substack peddling their bullshit. There always are. But this person who was after me about like, well, that's not rich. People that use airports aren't rich. I was like, why are you arguing this point with me? It's a verifiable fact compared to somebody who has all of their belongings in like a bag they made out of a t-shirt. A person who can even afford a flight, from Chicago to Minneapolis is rich. So why do you want to have this fight with me? This is just a way. I ended up having to mute this person. I didn't block them. I muted them. But I just think it's strange that people want to have these nitpicky arguments. But maybe you're right, Nikki. I mean, it could have just been a bot. I'm pretty good at recognizing bots. And this just seemed like somebody, I don't know if they just want to get my attention. This was a person with about 1,000 followers. It just doesn't make sense to me. Don't pick fights with me to get my attention. Why isn't it like if you have 1,000 followers, have a polite conversation with me and I will do what I can to promote you. But if you want to have a petty little argument about what rich is, and then they were being really snarky and like the demeaning words that people use when they're, I mean, if they wanted to debate that point about what rich is, we can do that in a way that's polite. But if they start using all this snarky language at me, it's like, why are you doing this? I just don't understand. Because I would help you. Just be a little bit courteous, please. Odd stuff. All right. Howard says you either crash flying or you'll be deported. Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, I'm frustrated with that because I want to take my kids out of the country this summer just for a break and to see the family. And I know my wife needs to see her family, but with ICE in the airports, that's another fear. We at least got our passports. We've needed those anyway. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so many trolls on Substack. There's a guy doing podcast about what? Nikki, let me roll back up. Oh, it's a mega podcast. Yeah, I should get on one of those. Once you break through that layer, like that layer of decorum, like this whole thing exists because rational people have conditioned themselves. They've listened to this conditioning that's somehow inappropriate to talk about these basic issues. The Catholic Church has covered up child rape. For some reason, that's considered inappropriate to say. It's a fact. Let's do something about it. Let's stop pretending this is a thing. The Republicans cheated elections. That's just a fact. That's all they ever do. They blame immigrants. Somebody was saying they've been blaming the immigrants for fraud to cover up the fact that it's the Republicans that commit fraud. And they've been attacking this marginalized group that doesn't have any power to speak for itself. Because they're a bunch of cheaters, and we just have to start saying that openly. You are Republican, that means you are a cheater. That's what your whole ideology is. There's nothing legitimate about what they believe. They're flat out awful people. All they want to do is exploit and marginalize, send their rapists to airports to harass hardworking people, steal our taxpayer money and give it to pedophiles. Let's just start talking like that because that is a fact. I've been thinking more and more, we need to start being more active because we keep focusing on the White House. We need to exert pressure on Republican groups in our communities. I mean, not you can just go talk to them. I mean, you have to be lawful, you have to be peaceful. You can even be respectful, even as you're speaking the truth and saying, yeah, why are you supporting a child rapist? Why is that? You can ask that question respectfully. When they're going to say they're going to turn around and say you're very rude because you're encroaching upon what they've indoctrinated themselves to think is content that's out of bounds. And we have to stand by our integrity and insist this is not out of bounds. I want my children protected. I want my children to be safe. So I guess it's a matter of how we frame it. And we have to practice this ourselves and in groups like this. I want my children to be safe. That means I need assurances that the government is not giving money to pedophiles. It's not arming pedophiles. We need a DNA database for everybody in law enforcement, for everybody in politics, just to make sure they are not accused of rape. Check it against the rape kits that have been collected. So anybody who goes into politics, if they are a rapist, then they get arrested and they don't get elevated to the highest office of the land where they have power to rape more kids. These are reasonable conversations to have. We don't have them. We should have them because that is our reality. Look at the Epstein files. It is a fact. Ongoing how we do that. But yeah, if we just go to the local Republican group in your community and just say, hey, why are you guys doing this? Find out where they live. Find out what businesses they have. These people are in our communities. They're benefiting from this. And we have a right not to support their businesses. They're so entitled. These rapists, these child rapists have become so entitled. All right. Howard says, very frustrated trying to build weekly protest numbers. People are checked out. You know what? That's interesting, Howard. We'll have to think about that too. I mean, it's been ongoing. I think we do need some sort of a change in strategy. And I've been seeing like the No King stuff. I wish they would let me talk. I mean, I've reached out to Indivisible a couple times. I think that's what it's called, Indivisible. And it was like, can I come and just talk? I can do a podcast while you guys are organized. Give somebody, but they just want to be like, hell no, ICE will go. They just want to do, and it's like that's boring after months and months of that. So just let me go and share what I've been learning here because I've been interacting with all these brilliant people. Let me talk to people and educate them a little bit. They can vet me. Here's my videos, with me talking to candidates. So I'm pretty legitimate at this point because I've talked to all these people running for office. I'm going to make an effort because a couple of these, the people running for the third, like Wisconsin's 7th and Wisconsin's 3rd district are both close to me. I'm going to start trying to be at more of these, appearances by these politicians. I just want to go. Hopefully they'll get to know me a little bit more. I can broadcast and say, hey, here we are. Maybe I'll start doing that. I'll just show up there. I'll speak a little bit in front of everybody. Then it'll be like I'm talking to you, but I'll have a group of maybe 30 people there as I talk, to the candidates, switch it around, take a video of them. But yeah, keeping people, but it's tough because what we need to see is a little bit of we're placing our sights too high. It's like, I've said this before. You have to look. You have incremental wins. We need a small goal that we can achieve today. Get that done. Now I have a small goal that we can achieve tomorrow. If our goal is remove the criminal administration, people are going to lose energy because we're not making progress towards that goal. There's so many different types of people. I was reflecting on this today. Where I'm a person, I'm strategy, right? This is how my brain works. That's how it's strategy. I'm seeing the information. I'm a storyteller. And a lot of what's going on right now is just storytelling. So I'm trying to dismantle a lot of this rhetoric that's used to keep us controlled. That's my job. I have another friend, and he was just like, you know what? I'm going to run for whatever office. He ran for Parks Board in Minneapolis. Got control of like a $17 million budget, which he then is using responsibly just so people can see, yes, the government can work for you. And he was organizing all these resistance to ICE when they came to Minneapolis. We did a wonderful thing. And that's like, it's not to mean like I'm not doing anything because I'm not doing what he's doing. We all have different things to add. And I've been seeing too much of that. We got to watch out for that division, be appreciative of other people doing something. But we need to put on our thinking caps and think what's something that we can do and actually get done, not just, dismantle the regime, but like erode erode it from the bottom. Erosion is important. How did we take a chip, at the regime today? It has to be, and something we can celebrate, because people are going to check out because we show up and we don't do nothing, and nothing happens, and people eventually give up. So we need something that people can get done today. Bit by bit, it's happening. Not about that. Yeah, I don't think it was a bot. Good morning, Courtney. And then Courtney says, ICE being deployed to airports, but sure, let's argue some. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I don't know why people, and and I think maybe though too, and that's just part of it. Like, some people are just so wound up in their thinking, and they're so frustrated, and they want to see some sort of action. And sometimes I do recognize it's frustration that's being taken out on me, and I try to have grace with those people. And I had somebody just hit me with a slew of profanities, and a lot of times I can just be like, look, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. And it's like, and I had one the other day where this one got really mad at me, and I said, I didn't say that. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. They actually apologize. So every now and then it happened. I didn't expect to get an apology because it almost never happens. But this person then said, hey, I'm 67 and I'm overwhelmed by the internet and technology. And I'm like, oh, you're right to be. So much of what you're dealing with isn't even real people, And I was talking with Emily Berge about that. She's running for Congress, and was it Emily I was talking to? It might have been Ginger. I think it was actually Ginger Murray I was talking about. And she was saying she tries to answer the questions she gets on Facebook. And I'm just like, well, that's a mistake, because so much of what's on Facebook isn't even a person. So, I mean, if you want to, don't waste your time writing comments. You can take that comment, make a video, and make your response to the people. And then you can link that video to the comment. I've answered your question here. I'm not going to respond to this chat thread anymore. Then it's productive. But if you're sitting there arguing with one person, then the bots are just laughing because you're wasting your time. Their whole objective there is to just waste your time. There was a crash this morning. Yeah, I mean, they keep firing the rational people. I mean, this white supremacy regime, all they hire is incompetent white supremacists. They claim that they're basing people on merit, but it's because white supremacists they're disconnected from reality. They only see whiteness as merit. But then the fact is, reality does step in. And if you hire an air traffic controller because he's white and he's not qualified, people are going to die. And that's one of the problems with white supremacy. Chris resists. I'm in Wisconsin. Chris asks, where are you located? I am located in Wisconsin. And June and Jude, come to Chicago and speak, please. I would love to speak more. I think I'll have to do more of this. I think the best way for me to start with that, though, and that's an ongoing thing. And like I was saying before, please, people, I mean, you're going to get burned out if your goal is if you only have one sight set on this massive goal, like topple the regime. Okay, that you're going to get burned out. I'll start with talking to these candidates that I've been interviewing. I started with interviewing the candidates. I mean, that was a huge thing for me. And like I said, I met my first candidate was Laura Benjamin. I met her at the cultural celebration in Eau Claire. She was just there. And I just approached her and said, hey, I have this podcast. Would you like to jump on it? Talk to me. I know you're a grassroots candidate. Is it worth an hour of your time? Maybe my people that support me will give you a couple $100. It's just sort of like as basic as that. But then also with these conversations, it creates AI clips. They go all to my socials. They get a copy of the video. They can share it to their socials. It's an effective way to create some content that, you never know. Sometimes stuff just explodes. I did that one conversation with Kat a couple weeks ago, and it ended up getting, thousands of views. And it's just like, amazing, great, wonderful. I don't know why. Stuff sometimes does well. I don't know why I'm getting a call right now. I don't know who that number that is. I get so many weird calls. But it's like, so I started with that candidate, and then I moved on to the next one and the next one, and it's ongoing. And then, now we're like, these candidates call me up sometimes. We're talking on the phone, and yeah, I should show up at their rallies and have a little conversation there. I can get people fired up at these moments. They can come to my newsletter. I can do some of the work. I mean, the candidates, they want to be in the news, but they can't run like a Substack like I run. They have to be out driving around, getting these places, having appearances. So I can help them. And that's progress. That's a thing every single day. incrementally building, getting bigger. And we're getting there, we're getting there. But yeah, it has to be, what can I do today? What can I do today? Don't put your focus entirely on, well, nothing's getting done because the regime is still committing crimes. It's like, we are making progress. We are building. So feel fortified by that. Yeah. Fat News Daily says, here's the thing about that. They do huge scale stuff, so it's got to be 101 every time. Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe they trick us, I mean, they trick us with the huge scale stuff, so we think we got to respond huge, because the reality is it's the little things. We're grassroots. We are the $20 donation party. We're not the $1 million donation party. And just everybody has to rouse themselves and do that thing every day. That $5 activity. It doesn't have to be $1 billion thing. Just do something that's worth like $5. And if everybody in America does that, then we'll get there. We can counter the big money. But you're right. I mean, all right, what is this? Fat News Daily says, I can't get through their calls because I've been studying organizing for so long. It's boring. I think it's good to recognize Indivisible as an awareness visibility group, which is a critical entry point for the general public. Yeah, it's good. I tried to talk with the local organizer, and that person was just overwhelmed. I'm like, well, you don't have anybody who helps. And I'm just like, can we just have like a 10-minute conversation? And it was just like, I couldn't get anywhere. And they were spending more time telling me how busy they were. It's like, in the time it took you to explain how busy you are, we could have gotten this conversation done. So let's just do that. But so eventually I just kind of gave up and started doing approaches like directly with the candidates. But and that's just the local one. I talked to one of my other friends who's an organizer, and she was having similar problems. And it's just, but a part of it too is it gets back to what I was talking about before with that Substack note, where somebody was like mad at me about the word rich. And I'm just like, why are we having a fight about this? Just put that's irrelevant, put that aside. Let's build together. I mean, yeah, we're not, and this is where all that language that's been weaponized, where we're just like, we have to work with people we disagree with. Of course, the DNC says that, meaning that we need to elect white supremacists, which is fucking insane. I'm sorry, not supposed to use that word, which is ignorant, and it's self-destructive. And it's self-sabotage. But we do have to work with people we disagree with. I think it's almost as if the DNC has made us so touchy about this idea of working with people we slightly disagree with. It's sowing the seeds of division. They've effectively done that. Social media has done that to such a large extent, where people end up fighting with me over the word rich, rather than recognizing we're on the same side and we're working towards a common goal. And it's just like, just let that pass. It's like, right now is not the moment for something so trivial as that. Yeah. Courtney says, I think both are important. Big events for engagement, visibility, incremental small wins for tangible. Yeah, and they will build. I mean, your small wins build to the big ones. It does continue to build. Like, it's crazy. I did it again. And neurodivergent is the one who tells me, and it correctly tells me not to use words like that. And I keep trying to program myself not to do it. Part of me programming myself is accountability when I slip up and use that. But it's one of these things where I hadn't realized the extent to which that was already kind of it programmed into my rhetoric, where I use those words inappropriately. We have been indoctrinated to be self-destructive, where we don't give ourselves enough credit for our incremental progress, and we only focus on the big thing. We have to look at the incremental progress. It's really important. Resistance takes many forms, yes, and we have to just take a step back and because it's that underlying frustration because things don't seem to be happening, that we tend to lash out at people who are our allies, because the allies are the only people that are willing to engage with you. Yeah. I think it was the Wise Wolf I saw this just let. Well, yeah, we got to resist. I think it was Carville. Yeah, he was just like, let him resist. It's like, you can resist. You have to resist. And we have given the Democrats enough power to resist. They keep voting. Fetterman last night, plus I think the one from New Mexico voted to confirm the new Mullen. And it's like, there needs to be huge pressure when our Democrats betray us like this. When two Democrats vote with the Republicans, we need to have huge pressure. But then the rest of the establishment Democrats just kind of brush it off. It's like, you can't, because that undermines the work of all the good Democrats at every level of our government. When we see Fetterman betray us, it makes people yell at the state representatives, because Fetterman is insulated from that. He refuses to talk to us. So we yell at the first Democrat we find, and they have nothing to do with it. They're the ones trying to work hard. The boots on the ground people doing the incremental daily work are the most important ones. The ones at the top doesn't mean as much. All right, let me keep going here. Yeah, Chris says attack the pillars of support. That's absolutely it. We have to start. I think that is a good strategy. Go and look for the Republican organizations in your community and talk to them. Apply some pressure there, politely, lawfully. Do not go and vandalize their offices. But you have every right to go and talk to the people that work there and confront them. Print out some pages of the Epstein files and make them read them. I mean, there's a lot of rich Republicans in your city. They're just sitting there quietly, like laughing at all this is what's going on. Let people know who they are, expose them, and make them feel a little bit of the heat the rest of us are feeling. And that's a way to be active. And maybe then they will start pressuring their leaders who are doing these blatantly lawless things that they think they're benefiting from. Let them know that they aren't benefiting from it. Let them know that there are consequences. Again, lawfully, peacefully, but we have every right to magnify these injustices of the people in our communities. You don't want your kids around people like that. Yeah, I need help trying to raise awareness. Yeah, I'll help you any way I can, Howard. Send me the questions. I've had so much lately. I try to do my best. I got a lot of stuff that has to be published, but I don't know. There's plenty to do. Like, just keep working. I'm not doing it with the strategy anymore. I'm just trying to get as much content out as possible. Hi, Judith. I see Judith is here. Chris says tensions are running high. We're all pissed by yeah, and it's important for us to take stock every now and then and recognize that and not get into petty arguments over stuff that isn't important. And then once people make a statement, their ego gets involved, and so then they don't want to back down, even if they later recognize that probably they were wrong. So we have to overcome that. And that's why I try to do that, model my own accountability. Okay, I was wrong. And then it's like, good, move forward. Free Friday. All right, let me keep going here. Chris says, join my boycott to stay off. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I'm pretty much off Facebook at this point. I don't like it. I think it's weird though, because for a while there, all I was getting, I'd come on there because I kept blocking these Sons of the Confederacy type groups. But then somebody's like, well, because you're blocking them, that represents engagement. So they keep showing you them. So I was getting just like all these Confederacy groups. I'm like, this is just blatant white supremacy stuff. Block. So yeah, I'm rarely on there. Yeah, we got to get off Facebook and Instagram. I mean, the stuff that they're doing is, yeah. And even if you block and delete your account, I think they keep once you've downloaded, it's like a virus. Once they've downloaded it into your computer, they never leave. Courtney, I'm almost completely inactive and Instagram at this point, although I do keep the accounts active in case I want to look someone. Yeah. Great, Howard. Yes, more candidates, the better. Just we'll get that organized. That'd be fantastic. My Vang, I would love to talk to more candidates. We'll keep her going. I had a really good conversation on was it Friday with Ginger Murray. I was feeling foggy with my vaccine still. I'm finally feeling better from that. I had that my second shingles vaccine on Monday a week ago, and it's been kind of just lingering. I felt okay for a couple days, and then it was like, ugh, it just kind of kept lingering, but better that than being sick. All right, Chris says, that's why I'm doing yeah, okay, I'm working to get people off the platform in just a single day and start changing habits. You really have to do, yeah, and it's one of those things. That's another thing I keep having to emphasize. A lot of times these movements are not, I make a statement and then the movement is in place, and I've found that's why I'm doing these daily talks rather than and I'm still doing my daily articles, but in the years leading up to this, okay, I have my 1,500 word article published. All right, that's my statement for today. Move to the next thing, another article. And it's just not enough, you have to get these. I don't know how many words these talks end up being, but if I go for an hour and a half, I assume it's a lot of words. It's probably 10,000 words, 15,000 words. But we just have to keep emphasizing this. And I have to go back to my days as a teacher. You don't just say, here's physics, day one. Oh, they understand it. Now we're done for that. Let's just, play video games for the rest of the year. You have to say it again and again and again and again. And people evolve and they develop. And so like the idea of getting people off social media and the idea of telling people to stop sponsoring the millionaire creators, like Robert Reich is worth $5 million. He's doing great work. I appreciate Robert Reich. You shouldn't be giving him money. You shouldn't. He needs to have his content be free. I still think that is a problem, that he has stuff behind a paywall. Are you serious? Why are you putting stuff behind a paywall? But I need support more than Robert Reich does. Plus he's of the millionaire class. So even though you have these well-meaning people, but because they are of the billionaire class or the millionaire class, $5 million means they're not on your side. If they have access to that much, because they're still looking for a status quo. Well, let's go back to this point. We have to get to a point where people who currently are sitting on $5 million fortunes also feel uncomfortable, because we are not going to ever solve child rape until everybody has an equal access to wealth. I was thinking about that this morning, where my kids, are they're super talented. I love them. I have so much pride in the things that they do, but they don't have access to money, and I'm their only resource. They're entirely dependent on me, and that's just an exploitable system. I don't like it, because I don't trust myself. Honestly, I don't trust myself to have power. And I do find ways to get them established, and to work on. But until they are, you don't really have an honest relationship with somebody unless that person is not dependent on you. And I think that needs to apply to parents and their kids. I mean, we need to have a society that ensures the rights of these children are protected, because so many kids are abused by their parents. That's just a reality that we don't think about. And so in order for us to get there, it's going to dismantle just anybody having an extreme amount of wealth over what everybody else has. And so we're not going to get there by supporting these millionaires. And I keep having to say this over and over again, because people just continually, because it's passive, well, just go see what these three creators, Adam Kinzinger, you guys have to stop supporting Adam Kinzinger so much. And I think people like him are the reason why I get into fights with random accounts about what rich means, because he's one of these people who's like, well, it's okay to be rich. It is not. It is not. And yeah, it has to be emphasized daily. And until people start making that deliberate choice of getting off these platforms and stop supporting these millionaires, and you have to keep encouraging people to do that. The momentum is still in the early stages where it's like that. It's like we're coddling a spark, trying to turn it into a flame. It's not a flame yet. It's a lot easier when it's a blaze, than you just have to throw logs on it and fuel on it to keep it going. We're at the point where it's this delicate little spark, and we have to keep blowing on it. But if you start getting too big, then you blow it right out too. So we just have to be very careful. That's the moment we're at. Yeah. Bite-sized progress. Right. Chris says, my habits have already changed. It's pretty freeing to be out of the clutches of Meta, even if it's just for a single day. It's funny too, because so much of like this deliberate action is stuff that I was living in anyway, just because it's like when you're we're not like, my family is, everybody, we got a roof over our head. We're not food insecure, so we're doing well that way. But I do live a Spartan lifestyle where I do all the repairs around the house, and everything you buy a used car, off Craigslist, I'll do that. And it's just all these different ways to just save money. And so when people start doing their lists of like, well, these are the things you need to do, it's like, and then somebody had this absurd thing. I was laughing about it with Michelle Tahue, because somebody's like, oh, you don't need $1,000 watch when $100 watch. And I'm just like, the $100 watch is just as much excess as the $1,000 watch. I mean, you have to, so I'm beneath that level, so a lot of what people are talking about, like, oh, we have to get down and make this kind of poverty activism. And it's like, well, that's the way I've lived anyway, so it's just kind of comical, how the level of disconnect. But I think it's because so much of the discourse on social media and in the news and in the legacy media is by these rich and entitled people that have no clue. They have no clue about what your experience is like. And they'll argue with you about what rich is, never understanding that a person, by virtue of the fact that they can buy an airline ticket, is rich, when compared to the majority of the population of the world. I mean, that's just established. So it's just bizarre. It's bizarre that, I guess it's just because the worst people in society control all the mechanisms of communication. And that's why I'm here, like talking and talking. I'll keep doing it. I hope I got my nose clean. All right, let me keep reading here. Deleting Meta entirely is too overwhelming to many people. Yeah, yeah, it is kind of better when you're just off of it. You're just away from it. But yeah, I think it is still monitoring you. Search that day. It's pretty easy. Yeah. Okay. Chris Resist says, if you're on Facebook, do a search for the hashtag Facebook Free Friday. It's pretty easy. Yeah, that's just one day off. It is good to take those breaks from social media. It's astonishing once you put the toxic stuff out of your life, how much better you start to feel. And you need to think about this when you're in a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship. You're constantly being subjected to these assumptions, and they reinforce those assumptions that have already been established. And that's why you need to get away from that. And you have to, it's constant pressure, a constant pressure to keep you from examining the basic facts that would allow you to shake off the abuse that you're dealing with. And getting off of Facebook does that because it constantly shows you things that are wrong. You get comments from bot accounts. And I mean, you'll get those bot accounts on if you scan through a lot of my articles, there's a lot of comments from false entities that are trying to undermine the progress you could make if you just read what I wrote, and then just went to think about it. They want to subvert that. Where you read I mean, if you read something, if you're listening to one of my podcasts while you're out for a walk, then you turn it off and just give yourself some time to just develop your own thoughts about it. And you need that time. And these comment sections rob us of that time often. Is that the word I was thinking? There was another word that was coming to my mind. I guess I'm getting here. I thought I was on a break, because I'd taken a break for a week to kind of restore my mind so that the words could come quickly. But I was having a hard time grabbing the word I wanted just then. But the comment sections rob you of that opportunity to just reflect on these things in your own time and formulate your own opinion. They want to dictate to you, well, don't you think this? And they sometimes do it under the guise of it being your opinion. So that's why you see people that spend all their time watching Fox News. They're like, well, based on what I think, I've done my own research. And then they spew forth the message that they've gotten from these toxic environments they consume. But if you're in a relationship with a bad person who constantly is, every problem in this relationship is your fault. They keep saying this because you don't achieve this certain level. You don't try hard enough. On and on and on and on and on. They know that they can't allow you to take even a break of a couple hours, or you'll start to recognize that all that stuff is lies. It's like once that toxic influence is pushed aside, you start to be able to bloom and develop into the person you deserve to be and to demand the treatment you deserve. And our entire society is like that constant oppression. When I moved to Peru, it was such a relief to walk through the streets and to not know the language because they couldn't get to me. They literally couldn't. And this was prior to, I mean, there was an email then, but I wasn't on internet like I am now. And you were just free from things for a while. And you were just free by yourself to think your own thoughts and to just stop having to listen to this constant set of lies about how you're worthless and you deserve to be abused. I mean, that's really what we have to help everybody awaken from. But there's all these tactics out there to keep people distracted and frantic and frustrated. And they end up fighting with me over the use of the word rich rather than the content of what I'm trying to tell them. All right. They've designed the platforms to be addictive and everything. It's to control the mechanism of narrative. They don't want us to think. They want to take books from us now so you can't read a book because they want to hide their guilt and their shame. We're existing entirely within this reality of, like if you're in an abusive household, you see your father beat on your mom. Okay, that happened. And now everything he does is designed to make you like, well, it's like, we're not allowed to talk about that. That's something we don't talk about. And so then you're, rather than exist in a reality where he recognizes he did something wrong, he takes the steps to fix it, there's accountability, you're living in this other reality of just this denial. Well, that never happened. Or you're not allowed to talk about that. That's just the way it is. All these narratives. So it's just this, I call it the bizarro. It's the bizarro reality. You have healthy reality where people practice accountability. And then you have this bizarro reality where you're not allowed to acknowledge the exact things that are causing all your misery. That's the reality we live in. And then it's to the point where if somebody like me starts bringing it up, well, this is causing problems. Oh, he's way out of line. He's saying stuff that we know we're not allowed to talk about. And then they feel entitled to get mad at you and scream at you. Like the idea of cutting the military budget. Or like just saying police shouldn't have guns. Police shouldn't be killing anybody. These are things that we are indoctrinated. Well, we have to. It's like, what if a guy robs a bank? The police have to be able to defend themselves. It's like, who robs banks anymore? I mean, what are you even talking about? And it's like, why does he have to start shooting at people? If you rob a bank, you don't have to get him in that moment. We have a surveillance society. Take pictures of them and then grab them later when they're asleep. We don't have to have cops with guns. It doesn't make any sense. Why do we have that? But because we're in that bizarro reality, people start to get jumpy, and it requires so much energy and force to maintain that, because the oppressors know that if you even start getting close to recognizing these things, it's all going to come crumbling down. Like the father who knows he beats up he beats up your mom, and he knows that if his children come to a recognition of that, they will reject him. So he has to take it anything that even is in the direction of them recognizing truth, he has to suppress. That's our world. And all these social media platforms apply to that. And just all these things where you're made to feel like you're a failure because you're not rich, that was put it on you. And eventually it always comes down to that, because shame and guilt are their greatest tools for controlling us. They pressure us that way. And you can just shake it off and you can say, look, you know what? I'm not going to feel guilty anymore. And it's like, you can be angry, but that's not my problem. And I'm going to explore these things. I'm not going to let you maintain these boundaries in my mind and dictate what I should do or think or believe. And that's really the essence of it. This is bigger than just this president and this regime. It's this whole structure of abuse that we live within. Having to see that, having to work to dismantle it is our task. It's a big task. It's the task of all humanity, particularly as we have technological advancements that make oppression and exploitation easier. And we have been apathetic. But we shouldn't be mad at ourselves. Because again, until the last year, I didn't realize the extent of the corruption. I don't think anybody did. Well, some people did. The people that were in the crosshairs of the abuse all this time, they've seen it. And they've had to endure people pressuring them with please to be quiet. Oh, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be. Oh, that's just an exception. All these awful things. Well, we have to just have solidarity with the marginalized, because the marginalized are the ones who know the truth. And that's why you shouldn't be paying the millionaires. You should be paying the people at the bottom, people that don't have any money, because they're the ones who have seen reality. They've seen the harsh reality because they've had to endure it. And they've been equipped to not deny it anymore as long as they survive, because that's the ultimate step. When the abuser knows that he's lost the power to keep people bewildered, the abuser murders the person. And then they turn around and heap all this shame as if that person deserved it. And that's that bizarro reality we live in. It's adjacent. But we can pass through the bizarre reality by looking at the facts that the abusers don't want us to see, like the Epstein files. I'm kind of going all over the place this morning, but I think this is useful stuff to talk about. All right, let me keep rolling through here. The DNC wants to make us Big Tent for corruption. Yeah, and I mean, we do have to work with people we disagree with, but there are boundaries. That's within the healthy boundaries. Once they start going over into the bizarro boundaries where they're justifying this abuse and making us all blind, we no longer can work with them. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not supposed to use any words that are ableist. Anything that might, Chris asked, what's the no word? Yeah, don't use ableist words that suggest some sort of a cognitive incapacity, just as a general sense, because that's ableist. I'm trying to be better at not doing that, but it's just kind of habitual. So I'm trying to fix that. I've been trying to fix that for a month, and I'm doing it less, so I'm getting better, but I still do it, and so I have to hold myself accountable. Yeah. It's okay. Only white supremacy demands perfection. Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's unsustainable. White supremacy can't be because you can never always be perfect. Okay, thank you, Nikki. So it says the small money is how AOC and Mamdani won. The small people, yep, and it's those little tiny acts of resistance every day. Yeah. Oh my God, Fetterman is my senator. Such a traitor. Yeah, and he needs to be pressured, but it's pressure everybody. Which other Democrat voted? I think it was from New Mexico. I think a Democrat from New Mexico, another senator. Uh, yeah. All right. Any of the Democrats that are APEC are not Democrats. They're the pro. Yeah. And there's this weird thing about that though. The APEC does this bundling thing because I know that you have to look. I think Democrats fix the system so that just about all of them end up with some APEC because you saw that Jasmine Crockett had like $80,000 in donations, which is like, okay, she got it through some bundling. I don't know what that means, but I think they smear you, and these corrupt systems always smear the good people, and then they turn around and be like, look. And it's like, even though Genocide Schumer has taken millions from APEC, and for some reason, like 80,000 in APEC money ended up in Jasmine Crockett's control through some bundling mechanism, that's a relatively insignificant amount of money on this federal scale. So I think we have to be a little bit careful. It's just always more complicated than it appears, but it's certainly the ones that are taking millions from APEC that are problematic. Yeah. Okay, let me keep going. Yep, good weekend. I hope everybody had a good weekend. These like I went and saw the Project Hail Mary the other day. I took my kids. That was the end of spring break, so we went to see that. It's a nice movie. It's a good, hopeful movie about humanity coming together and saving the world. Well, one person more or less. Good one to watch. It was oddly emotional. It was okay, and it's not like I always laugh because my wife took us. It was a long time ago. Yeah, my wife took us. There was this double feature. There was this movie about a dog, and I'm like, "Did you read about this?" The dog survives this movie, does he? Does he not? Because we're going with my kids, and they're like 8. And it's like this movie where the dog, it's like this guy gets his puppy, and then the puppy gets like kidnapped, and they spend the whole movie trying to get the dog back. And I was looking over my girls, and they're just like, oh, they're just crying, like those big, huge tears coming out of their eyes. They're just like, they better find this dog at the end, and they did. And so we left the theater, and everyone was like, oh, phew. It was just so exhausting. But it's like, let's never go to a movie with, a lost dog again. All right. But yeah, Project Hail Mary wasn't like that. You can take your family to it. It's a positive one. Hi, Joanna. Good morning, Walter. Joanna says that's nice. Pillars of support. Okay. It's interesting. FoxTakedown.com, Nexstar, Sinclair. Yeah. We need our small independent journalists back. We need the local papers back. Support for your local community, local reporters, people like me. It's so helpful because they got us in the crosshairs. They don't want people like me who and I've actually passed through from bizarro reality to healthy reality. I've passed through that boundary, and it's hard. And then but I can remember how we used to think when we were living in that bizarro world where everything in your life is conditioned into you to resist even recognizing the very choices you could make that would make your life better. And that's an ongoing thing, teaching people how to get from one place to the other. That's important. That's an ongoing. That's the essence. That's the sketching out evil. That model is all forms of evil fall into that, I think. Okay. Nikki says, I would love to pass a few pages out at one of our city council meetings. Only one Dem seat. Oh gosh. Alex says, going to be a busy day. Already seeing ICE activity at the airports. Oh, it's not going to end well. Awful. Amber says, ooh, the shingles vaccine are rough, but so much better than actually getting shingles. Yeah, I'm feeling better finally. It's been a week now, but yeah. Nikki says, I get on Facebook to have heated discussions with City Councilman District 3. He's a personal injury. You should. I wonder if you could have a face-to-face discussion with him. I got to start showing up and being at I have been looking for like city council meetings and for school board meetings. I got to start going to those. Prepare a 3-minute conversation and look these Republicans in the eye and just tell them that the things that they believe, because they are all in that maintaining that bizarro reality that doesn't recognize their transgressions against us. All right. Nikki says it's okay to be comfortable, and by that I mean by the end of the month you still have money in your bank account, and that feels very comfortable. Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate, but I'm 50 now, and it's been, my wife has a good job, and that's a lot of it. But it's like everybody always is at the same spot where I'll slip and a fall, and all of a sudden you got $30,000 in hospital bills, and that would put us under. So it's just like comfort is an illusion in these regimes, these oppressive regimes, and then it's always you see it happen to people all around you. Bad luck, bad luck, bad luck. And then you're like, well, I just hope it's not me. And then it does happen to you and nobody's there to help. I mean, that's the First They Came poem by, what was it? I want to say Niemöller. Niemöller? I got the name wrong, I don't think. Being jumpy and owning guns seems to, yeah. And we can't have them. We can't have them. Like, what's the point of them? I mean, what's the point of having guns if you're if you're in a secure area? All that does is introduce guns into the secure area. It makes no sense. We don't need our hillbilly death squad, which is what I call ICE, at the airport. Slackest gun laws, yeah. Howard says, I just saw an update on ICE airport. They will be at 14 airports. No masks. All right. Well, at least that's a way to identify all these ICE agents. They're probably not going to like that too much, but get your pictures of them. I hope they'll have their identity badges. Yeah. No masks is step in the right direction, and all in 14 blue states. Interesting. So this is just a performative thing. It's not a reality thing. Yeah. It's just a threat. Well, and you know what? The good news is, because I was fearful that the Democrats would be like, whoa, if you're putting ICE in airports, it's going to interfere with our flights, so we can't have that. So they're just going to be like, give them everything they want. So I did see some whispering the other day, too, that they were talking about getting rid of Schumer, having him step down. We'll see if that's true or not. They got to get rid of that guy. What's his name? Martin. They got to get rid of him, too. But there's pressure that we can make, and we got to apply this pressure. The DNC's got to shape up because they're just not being effective. Yeah, they're hiding APAC money funding behind other groups. Yeah, and I think they're also trying to make it seem like they're trying to make it seem like it's normal, like everybody takes it, even though that's not the case. There's a lot of deceit out there, so we always have to take another step, triple verify things. Yeah. All right, let me keep face-to-face is so much better. Try to do that anytime you can when you have a choice. Yep. And I mean, these talks are useful as we kind of get, and this is my exploration. I get here. These are my exploration talks where I try to figure things out, and you guys are so helpful with that. Oh, hi, Natasha. Great to see Natasha here. So it's a little bit kind of all over the place, but it's useful to go through these comments and kind of formulate how I think, and then I should probably print out this transcript. Earlier on, I was having some pretty good talk. That idea about the bizarro boundaries is stuff I have to talk more about. Amber says, Howard, what we really need is more people. Yeah, dog people with empathy, compassion, a sense of responsibility, and humility. Those people are out there. We have to empower them to act on it because we're also conditioned to think that this abuse is just normal. That's the lie of white supremacy, as Natasha says. That's the conditioning, the brainwashing. Good people, a line like spare the rod and spoil the child. An otherwise good person can be compelled to hit their child, even though that's not something they want to do, because they think, okay, I have to do this. I'm being responsible. It's for the greater good. This will spare my child future pain by inflicting pain upon them now. And that's a lie. All that is a lie. And we have to get to that point where we reject those kind of lines, even though it's this, phrase that's been handed down through antiquity. And yeah, you can't do it. You have to reject those things. We have to encourage ourselves to be kind, as if kindness is. I had somebody the other day who just was like, oh, you're expecting politicians not to lie, like I was being naive. And it's like, yes, I expect them not to lie. Let's put some laws in place so that if they lie, they are held accountable for it. We can do that. But people just act like, oh, this is the way it is always going to be. This is the way it's always been. And anybody says otherwise is naive. And it's like, yeah, once people said it was impossible to get to the moon, and once people said it was impossible to fly, we can make these advancements. And like this idea of saying, well, you're being foolish to even contemplate that is part of that conditioning that prevents us from seeing the crimes that are holding us all captive. Frederick Douglass, just walked off the plantation. That's the thing. And if you read it, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, he just says it's just when you just unlock your own brain, then you're free. It doesn't take this dramatic social change. It's individual people shaking off this indoctrination that's put into them. And you need new forms of teachers because our public schools do brainwash people. And I am pro-public school. We need to reform our public school so that it empowers kids. We should be having lessons about the crimes of Christianity and how they had these laundromats where they would gather up girls on the street and rape them. And then, they'd take the babies and then they'd rape the babies at some point too. I mean, We need to talk about these crimes of Christianity in public schools, even if it makes people upset, because they keep enabling these crimes. And we have child trafficking today. We have slavery today because the South said, well, we'll just arrest the black community and we'll force them to work. And then we'll create the plantation era that we had before that you took from us, quote unquote. We have to talk about those things. And, because some people sit there and say that, well, this is more, it's online. People are like, well, racism's gone. It's only, Natasha made me think of this because in a couple of the article or the videos that we've done together on YouTube, I've been reading the comments there, and they're like, it's only people like you that keep racism alive. It's liberals like you. And it's just like, it's just like that idea that it's like just us talking about it is what maintains it. And that's it, because they just want people to not even think about it. They want to not teach about the true history of the United States in schools. They don't want to talk about the crimes of the founding fathers, and even the name is patriarchal. Oh gosh, MJ just said 2 pilots killed at LaGuardia. Yeah, I mean that was a crash, right? That's not ICE shooting people yet. Chris says, no, we've seen them in Atlanta with the N95 masks, the ones that they refuse to wear. Yep, I was writing that too. Like they'd wear the right only wears masks at ICE raids and Klan rallies. They won't wear them to save their parents. Okay, Natasha's here. That means we have to fight the new guys. Yeah, well, fight is our constant struggle. We will struggle to the end. Nikki says, Walter, I've been behind Jasmine Crockett all the way, heard her speak. I have my picture taken with her. When I support a candidate, I usually do as much investigating, whether supported or not supported. I have found that Jasmine is involved with crypto. Well, okay, good. I'm glad you've talked about that. I would like to know more about that. Yeah. It's become one of these things where it's like it's becoming so fused with our society. It's like it's hard to think that people would be out of it. So I would be curious to hear more about what that means. Howard says Chris Murphy mentioned the Schumer thing. Like Chris Murphy is, which one is Chris Murphy again? I think he was actually, because it's Martin, the one that's been sabotaging us, right? Yeah. Natasha says they're not going to put in a woke chair, and we have to put that pressure on, make sure they get somebody good in there. Yeah, you're right, Natasha. I'd say what Natasha's saying. Natasha gives us the reality of what we're up against. When I talk about blue MAGA, some people get really upset. And it's just like, we have to hold the Democrats accountable when they sabotage us. Like when Fetterman goes and votes against us, all other Democrats have to speak up and denounce him. Otherwise, you undermine any faith in the Democratic Party. You make it really hard for the people down working at this, doing good work in the state level. So if not Martin, I'll call out the rest until they do something. Good. Natasha's doing great work there. Jasmine is stepping down now, so everyone can leave her alone now. They got what they wanted. Yeah, I hope. Yeah. I want Jasmine to keep going. I wonder what's next for her. She's been so wonderful. She's been one of the bright lights in these last 2 years. So, yeah. I hope she's not going away. Howard says, I took a deep canvassing course for how to have conversations with these folks. Yeah. And like I said, I grew up in the red area, and I've had to deal with them my whole life. I've been in classrooms, might as well have been 30 people wearing white hoods and me in a classroom having to deal with folks like that. So I know how to deal with them. And it doesn't come from backing down. I'll tell you that much. Natasha says the double standard has to stop. I saw she was involved in crypto too, but we can push people to do the right and make change. She's malleable. Tallarico, not so much. Yeah. I'm curious to know more about the details of that, because it's like, what does that mean? If you're using crypto as a means to just fundraise, but it's so much of crypto. I frankly don't understand. To be just straight out honest, I don't understand it. I don't even understand Bitcoin, and that's like the most basic one. So what I know about Jasmine Crockett is, she has stood up and spoken truth to power. And Tallarico makes me worried with his affiliation with Carville. And until he gets rid of Carville, I just don't trust him. So simple as that. America loves white men. So but we also too, and like Natasha, they did voter suppression in Dallas. It just happened. And unless we stand up and make sure every vote is counted, the Democrats aren't going to win. I was talking about that with that Robert People. he was so good. I really enjoyed that conversation. He's a candidate running for Congress in Florida. And I just said to him, it's like, if the same thing happens every time, the Democrats are perfectly happy to have vote suppression when it allows their establishment pick to win the primary. And then when the vote, because then they don't get the vote suppression fixed. And then when the vote suppression is used again in the general, the Democrat loses, and the establishment Democrats blame the Black community for not coming out to vote, even though they never stand up and protect the rights of the Black community to vote. That's our issue. That's what we need to talk about. All right. Amber says, "Hey Natasha, I need to rewatch your live from last night, driving and running errands." I saw that. I saw a couple of clips from that. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Looking forward to talking with Natasha and Deidre again. We had a really wonderful conversation. I just don't know when I'm going to schedule it. Everything's been super busy. How much time do I have? I got another few minutes here. We need media ethics laws. So Fox, yeah, I mean that's absolutely. We need to completely transform. We need to break up we have antitrust laws. They aren't supposed to be this media conglomerates like there is right now. That's illegal. But so much of our society is illegal right now. All right. Nikki says, I do go to the city council meetings. I live in the Depot district, and that is right at the edge of downtown. I think I live in the best part of Lubbock. Good. And I bet those are fascinating. I think more people would feel empowered. I was so proud of my daughter because she applied to be the student representative for the school board. And I think that's just great. I was pressuring her. I told her last year she should actually just run for school board, like be on the school board even while she's in high school. She's like, Dad. But I guess I planted that seed because she applied to be the student representative, and she's like her mom. She's not like me. I'm the one who just constantly talks. But my wife is an observer. She'll just let people talk. She'll watch them. Okay. Write things down, and then she doesn't forget. That's important. That's important too. Yeah. Get rid of the school voucher program. Absolutely, Nikki. That's complete racism. The voucher programs are. Oh gosh, yeah. You might get a laugh, Natasha, on my profile because there was a couple. Natasha writes, "Oh wow, LOL. I haven't even thought to check the YouTube comments. I don't recommend it. You might laugh at some of the responses I left on my channel. I only got like YouTube. That's just completely passive. I got like 100 subscribers on there, but if it grows, it grows. If it's extra views, it's great. Racism is alive and sadly well. DEI is a good thing, Chris, but accusing DEI of being bad would be the new racism, I would say, because we need diversity. It's like they say DEI. It's like, which of those things is it? Equity or equality and inclusion? Which of those things do people disagree with? It's diversity you don't like? I mean, you paint with just one white crayon? That's how you like to do things? Yeah. Where did racism go? Well, it changes. It evolves. Yeah, the idiocy. And where did it go? I'm still seeing it every day. Well, and they're trying to reform reality to fit their narrative because that's what white supremacists do. Oh gosh. Oh good, Amber, she's been a little overburdened. Oh, that's Amber's lovely picture. Yeah. And my daughter's been a little overburdened. She's got a whole bunch of those drawings she has to do yet, but she's getting there. Crypto, Natasha says crypto bills, but we can push people. There are progressives who can and will do the right thing. And a lot of times too, you got to be careful because I saw that like AOC voted against that release, like the sexual accusations release among Congress, and AOC voted against it. But then she's like, yeah, because the way the bill was written, it exposed all the people that made accusations and it protected the predators. So she wasn't going to vote for it in its form. But that can be misleading too. So a lot of this stuff is past the eye test, Chris says, I think Jasmine was trying to do good and play the game, and I think it's the game to corrupt folks. I hope that she realizes that can pivot. And I think that's a good comment. And I mean, people trying to work within the system, and I think we saw that with Kamala Harris. She tried to work within the system. But of course, if you're a Black woman, the system isn't going to let you play ball. They're going to use you and chew you up and spit you out. And so, I mean, but yeah, I still think I still love her as a candidate. I think she'd be great. I think she's going to come back next time around. She could be doing more right now, though. I would offer that criticism. But I mean, Jasmine Crockett has just been there. She's been in the fight, speaking truth to power, and I'll always appreciate her for that. And Kamala Harris too. I wish she'd have just pushed a little harder in that debate and pushed the guy into narcissistic collapse. Murphy traveled to Kilmar last year. Okay, yeah. And MJ said Chris Murphy's a senator from Connecticut. Yeah. Oh, Natasha says, oh no, it is Connecticut. Yeah, I've heard Chris Murphy's name a lot. I haven't done my research on him, but I do recognize that name. Nikki says, I found this for you. I want her for governor. Is that one that Francesca Hong, or who do you, or Jasmine Crockett you want for governor, I think is what you're trying to say. Yes. Whoa, that would be wonderful. Okay, it was a bill. It was a crypto bill. Well, we do need a crypto bill. Okay, let me just continue rolling down here. We need a bill to regulate crypto. Okay, good. I'm getting down to the end. So I have like 10 more minutes. I can answer the rest of these questions. Nikki says it didn't come through the time, but I hopped on a live stream with Kat, and we discussed Tallarico and Crockett, Texas politics. Yeah, it's so important. And I've been talking with that Lisa Hamlin. She's doing great work in Texas. I got to get on another live talk with her. There's so many people I really, really want to talk to again. It's just a matter of energy. But there's so many brilliant people here, and it just is uplifting to be able to talk to everybody. MJ said, just saw ICE pinning a woman on the ground in an airport in front of her child. What the fuck? I mean, there's no need for that, but you can't hide it when they're doing it at airports. There's even more cameras there than there are in the streets of Minneapolis. And the second they murder somebody at an airport, I don't know. What's it going to take to wake up white people is really what it comes down to. 5 friends who own businesses. Yeah. Chris says, that's what I meant. Removing attacking DI is a newer racism. Right. Good. And Icky says, Jasmine Crockett is brilliant. Yep. And we're all on the same page. It's nice to read these. It's a little bit easier doing it like this where we're interacting. And that's one other thing I always like to just emphasize is just, it's so easy in comments to have things be misunderstood. And sometimes the way the comments are shown, I'll have somebody who is actually responding to some rude thing somebody said to somebody else, but I'll read the comment and it sounds like it's directed at me. So I'll just clarify that sometimes. So just kind of put your, and I have to be careful about this because I'm human too and I get mad, but sometimes you have to just put your outrage to the side, just be like, okay, wait a minute, let's just verify who are you attacking. And I think that's the thing you can do and preserve your mental health and just make people admit they're attacking you and like, okay, goodbye. And then you block them. But there is use and it's infrequent. But I would say, every now and then I talk to people and we clarify things. It's like 10% of the time. It's actually growing. It feels like people are willing to acknowledge they made a mistake. They said something inappropriate. And they correct themselves and then move on. So we're getting there. The more we do that, the more we break through and stop living in the bizarro world where we're conditioned to not even observe the authors of our misery. And we can live in the healthy world. But we have to guide our people, through the straight, split the waters and go through. And we can get to a world that's healthy. But honestly, I look across the landscape because I'm considered on the fringe because everything else, all the millionaire sponsored Substacks are supporting the status quo that is just nothing but your continuation of your oppression. We have to do something radically different. We need to recalibrate how we think. Somebody put, do you have a link for the ICE assault? I'm about to jump off here. I got a few minutes. I've got to talk. I'm going to be calling. This will hold on the phone. I wanted to talk with her and get some ideas about what I can talk to. When I'm talking to candidates, I want them to be more serious about how Republicans cheat our elections. And I want that to be part of our conversation. It needs to be our national conversation. We can't just be like vote against SAVE or defeat SAVE. We have to be, Republicans are trying to rig elections. They rig, and every state is different. Some states are terribly gerrymandered. They're terribly rigged. Red states. Oh, great. Natasha just put the link about, okay, let me get that. I don't think it can. Oh, we can't do it, but it's an Instagram reel. Actually, post it on a note, Natasha, and then maybe I can find the note. Maybe tag me there. I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, we have to continue how every state is different. Some states are actually have something approaching fair voting, blue states, whereas red states, once they get red Republican governors, once they get Republican control, they cheat. They cheat. And people deserve to have a democratic process. And the problem is too, the DNC, the Washington Democrats, they try to rig and anoint their primaries. This is something we have to say openly. It makes people really upset, but we have to be better than our opposition. There is an article I always cite because after the 2015 primaries, Bernie Sanders sued the DNC, and the court determined the DNC had the right to rig the primaries against him. DNC has to be better than that. We can't sit here and pretend that's not the case. And that's exactly what I was talking about before. We can't train ourselves to disregard the authors of our oppression. And in this case, the DNC did rig the primaries against Bernie in 2015. They did. Just say it. They did. We know they do it. And we have to have these conversations. That's not me attacking Democrats. That's me attacking an unjust mechanism that has caused all of our suffering and problems. So keep that in mind. We'll keep going with that. We'll keep giving ourselves permission to fight back. Because really, that's, from my earliest days when I was getting beat up on the school bus, I endured it because I'd been conditioned to think I was not allowed to fight back. And eventually I decided, you know what, the hell with it. I'm not going to just lay down and die. And that's the mindset we all need to get to. Also restricting election sites, fewer and Dem strongholds, easy and yep. And there's so many things that they do. They purge the voter rolls, they sour ballots, they discard ballots, they gerrymander. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And then they accuse immigrants, and they claim voter fraud. That's the thing, because Republicans constantly claim voter fraud. So that's our opening for us to respond and say, yes, it's voter fraud what Republicans do, the way they restrict people. And what if we had mandatory voting in the United States where everybody had their vote counted? That would change everything. But the Democrats don't want to do that because they're pretty content to use this system. So that's what we have to change. We have to reform the Democrats just as much as we have to defeat the Republicans. And once we just recognize that and move forward and recognize we're all allies, it greatly improves our chance of success. All right, I'm going to leave it for now. I got a couple things. I'm talking to, what's her name? Christy. I'm talking to Christy at noon today, just about a writing talk. I'm talking with Melissa Corrigan at 1, and that's going to be about my interviews with these candidates. On I'd Rather Be Writing, I published today the list of all the interviews with every candidate I've done. If you guys could help me out, these candidates are wonderful. They are progressive candidates. Each one of these is an hour-long interview. But go and get to know these candidates. And if you have a chance, please restack every one of those interviews. I want people to see these candidates. Stack them on your social medias. That'd be a reason to go back onto your social media platform. Stack those candidates. Let people know that these candidates are out there. We can transform our government. The primaries are going strong right now. We can vote out the anointed Washington Democrats, and we can vote in progressive candidates who actually work for us. You will feel inspired by watching these videos because these are candidates who are willing to talk to me, just a regular person, and they will answer tough questions. And we are making progress there. And you guys really help. 114 restacks of all these candidate interviews would be huge. That would be a massive thing you all could do for me today and do for our whole society. Francesca Hong running for governor. Gosh, my poor brain's wigging out. But she's this wonderful candidate, just brilliant. And I think she's got AOC potential. She could just explode onto the national scene. Please restack that. You can restack them multiple times. Every time you restack it with a note, restack them periodically. Keep coming back. And I mean, if you don't do anything else, that's a wonderful thing to do. That would really help. All right. Last couple things. Thank you, Courtney. That's a lovely comment. She says, I rock. I appreciate that. MJ says, you're my hero. I appreciate that too. All right. And yep. And then hashtag, gosh, I'm going over my words today. I guess I've been doing this for a while. Chris Resist says hashtag Facebook Free Friday. So yeah, check that out. Oh, you hadn't seen me before, Chris. So I feel like we're old friends. I've been chatting with your comments throughout this, so that's great. All right, yeah, please go promote those candidates, those wonderful, wonderful candidates. We don't have to submit to this oppressive and cruel government. We can vote in better candidates. Starts with the primaries. We can transform our government soon. Perfect. We're old friends now. Perfect. All right, I'm leaving it. All right, thanks everybody. You guys are great. I appreciate you all. Francois just came in. I'm sorry I'm leaving, but I'll be back tomorrow probably. Bye-bye.